and you've just helped to create one of your strongest supporters. You can even put your customers to work for you and thereby ensure their loyalty by conveying something such as, "We're restructuring our customer service department and we would love for you to help evaluate our inquiries and how they're being handled. Based in part on your feedback, we'll be able to assess how effective the changes have been." The client will not only appreciate your valuing his input and feedback, but also will soon feel personally vested and connected to your company. You further solidify his loyalty by asking him to review periodic customer service feedback reports, something that shouldn't take more than 10 minutes or so. Strategy 2, a part of greatness. How people identify with their favorite sports teams is revealing. When their team wins, it's, "We won," but when they lose, it's often, "They lost." We all want to be a part of something great, to be with someone great and attach ourselves to a winner. To inspire loyalty, let others see the greatness within you. The quickest way to lose someone's loyalty is to be perceived as dishonest or untrustworthy. Even if the person does not like what you have to say, your truthfulness speaks volumes, communicating an important message that you can be trusted. Regardless of anything else, people will take their chances with someone who is principled before they will sign on with someone who tells them what they want to hear or who tries to cover up the truth. You can develop an ardent sense of loyalty by being known as someone who does what is right, even when an easier course of action is apparent and readily available. Therefore, always be honest in your dealings and never sacrifice the truth. This illuminates fine character like a beacon in a fog of phonies. Your integrity can illustrate itself in a variety of ways. For instance, if you are playing a game with a colleague and a disagreement ensues over who is right, take a position that is less favorable to you. Long after the game is forgotten, you will be known as a person who took the high road, even though it was not in your best interest. People will seek you out and want to be a part of what you do. By the way, since we're speaking of integrity, be sure that your position, although unfavorable to you, is genuine. You don't want to manufacture circumstances so that you can appear a certain way. Rather, where such situations arise naturally, be aware so that you can maximize your ability to garner loyalty. Let's take another example. If your client wants to do something that is not really in his best interest, but that's advantageous to you, for example, in terms of a contract, commission, or billable hours, and you explain to him how and why it's not in his best interest, and perhaps suggest a less costly route, you will have gained a client for life. How much greater loyalty do you feel for a mechanic or a dentist who, for example, reveals that certain workers are necessary, even when you would never have known on your own? A principled person stands apart in his ability to captivate unwavering loyalty. In Robert Cialdini's classic book Influence, he tells of a top waiter who unscrupulously used this function of human behavior to boost orders and consequently tips for larger groups of diners. Taking the initial order, the waiter would hesitate, look over his shoulder, whisper that the dish wasn't as good tonight as it usually is, and suggest 2 other menu items that were slightly less expensive. Diners felt grateful that the waiter had done them a favor, and now perceived him as someone they could trust. The waiter received higher tips as diners were inclined to order more expensive wine and desserts from this waiter of such seemingly high integrity. Strategy 3, little by little. In a study by Freeman and Fraser, a team of psychologists called several housewives in California and asked them if they had a few minutes to answer a few questions about the household products they used. A majority agreed. Then the researchers called again 3 days later, but this time asked if they could send 5 or 6 men to the home to go through all the kitchen's cupboards, pantries, shelves as part of a 2-hour tally of household products. The psychologists discovered that these housewives were more than twice as likely to agree to the 2-hour request than a group of housewives who were asked only to complete the larger task. You see, if their unconscious was not first primed, the housewives had no foundation to submit to such an inconvenience. How does this work? When we take that initial step in one direction, we are motivated to maintain a sense of consistency to